All right, friends, welcome back to the Be Fabbo Podcast. This is episode 135, and we are going to talk about visibility and how you are showing up without performing. So I'm your host, Bobbi Brinkman. If you've joined us for the first time, welcome. If you're an OG, welcome back. So in the last episode 134, we talked about audience and about getting specific enough that the right people can truly find you. So this week, let's take that conversation a little step further and talk about what happens once you know who you're building for and when it's time to really start showing up for those people, that audience that you're building for. So again, let's dive into some visibility. And I want to say this from the start, that I think very often that visibility gets treated like a strategy problem. And in my opinion, and the more people that I work with and that I have conversations with and that reach out to me for mentoring and coaching, the more that I realize it's usually something much deeper, that it is most often a courage problem. So let's keep that in mind as we have this conversation, as you listen in, kind of keep that and see if that resonates with you, if that's something that you feel. And when I talk about visibility, I'm not just talking about social media, although we know that that's 90% of where, if you're a solopreneur or a creative entrepreneur, small business owner, that you have to do that. Now, if you're a bigger company and you're doing TV ads and radio ads and all those things, you show up on podcasts, you show up on audios, you go out in networking, you attend conferences. That's all part of visibility. But we're going to talk a lot about the social media side and things that are working and how things are actually happening and getting done, right? How we need to show up. So I spent 40 years making other people visible, right? Over 40 years, I was behind the camera, capturing them at their most real, happiness and sad, their most present, when they were mostly themselves. Knowing exactly how to help someone relax in front of a lens so that who they were at that moment that I had the honor of capturing, freezing time, freezing those moments so that future generations could see who their relatives were, what it looked like, where they lived. And let's face it, in these photos, as many often happen, the town looks nothing alike it. The people, the clothes, everything. And then sadly, of course, people pass away. And even in those moments when I was photographing the happy wedding days or the bar mitzvahs and the bat mitzvahs or coronations and all kinds of the gold medal wins, or I just won a hockey game or whatever it was, even the moments when I was called to photograph, my parent is passing away, we like one more photo in the hospice, those moments I still needed to learn how to make people feel comfortable because of the privilege I had of being invited in this extra special moment. So I had to learn that for myself as well. I needed to learn how to step in front of the camera, right? How to get more present on social media instead of hiding behind it, and how to show up publicly with my own voice, sharing my own story, not being afraid to share my own experience and my perspective and my own lived experiences without that lens and that comfortable buffer that I had in my hand between me and the moment that was happening. I've shared often before that I created and was the director of organization in several organizations where hospitals would call us when somebody was giving birth and the baby wasn't going to live very long. And sometimes we knew weeks in advance that this child was going to have issues and would only live for a matter of moments. And those moments, those rare opportunities to be when people are the most vulnerable, when they are in such deep pain. That camera in my hand was the buffer. When I looked at the lens, I could focus in on capturing what they were going to need later, what they were going to want to have to help them heal. And then on my way to the car, I would fall apart because that camera was no longer between me and that moment. And that's hard. And anytime we have to do something where we become really vulnerable and our protection is taken away, whether you're on social media, going on a stage, going on a podcast, or even walking into a network meeting with your hand out saying, "Hi, welcome, I'm new here," or "Hi, welcome, thank you for being here, I'm so-and-so." Because I used to be that person who made other people feel seen I was not used to being the person, nor did I want to be the person that needed to be seen myself. And there was a version of me that I gotten very comfortable managing how I was perceived rather than showing up honestly. I knew that when I was diagnosed with Parkinson's 3 years ago and was stepping away from my photography career, that I wanted to share my story about having Parkinson's, but I wasn't ready to post a lot about it on social media. I do that in long form content. And I wasn't ready to turn this podcast into an audio podcast. And even before that, most of you know I stutter. If you've been around for a while, you can see that I have trouble with words. I don't really script these things. I come up with the idea and I kind of just run with it, right? I voice to text a lot of things. So sometimes when I'm looking at something, if I'm trying to even read my own voice to text, the thoughts get lost. And now that I have Parkinson's, that brain fog comes in. And if you were looking at me now, you would see that my tremor right now is really bad. My right hand is really shaking and it's kind of all over. And I thought, I don't want to be on camera. I don't want somebody to perceive me as being weak or not able to do something. And then I got to thinking, I'm already not going to be behind the camera, but I still have so much to offer. My purpose didn't change. It was just redirected. And now I still want to be on the speaking tour and I still want to help and empower others, build what matters most. And I also want to talk about what it's like to have Parkinson's at 63 and kind of feel alone, right? So I had to learn all these things. So I had to start getting comfortable with what showing up on the day I was showing up, shakes, tremors, stutters, and all. Now, the shift is happening slowly. It's still happening, but it's not happening because I finally got confident. I have confidence. I believe in myself. I know that what I want to do to empower others to believe in themselves and to build what matters most is a message I can share confidently. It happened, the shift happened slowly because I got tired of hiding beneath that polished version of myself. I decided, you know what? I stutter even more now. I shake. And when I have to go on stages, I might have to hold on to something. And sometimes I might pause. Where I already had trouble announcing certain names with my learning differently speech impediment, now remembering with the Parkinson's fog was one more layer of that. But I knew that I needed to continue to show up for the people that my work, my message was most meant for, instead of trying to just talk to the masses in this new role that I was in. I didn't need to talk to everybody about everything. I needed to talk about my lived experiences, 42 years of a career as an entrepreneur, as a really strong solo entrepreneur, building a team and building a business, to now going and speaking and mentoring and such, to now having to also deal with how that looks when I do that. Would I still look confident, right? Would people still accept me? And I realized there are plenty of people out there who this message is still for, that are also struggling with something else. Even though our paths are different, we don't walk the exact same steps, we're all struggling with something. And I think we can relate. I talk all the time about sharing your story because you do not know how much power it is in your story, the good, the bad, the ugly. Somebody else will go, oh my gosh, somebody's been there. I had a similar path. So when I started just showing up and talking, not yet actually moving this audio to video yet, because I just don't feel that people want to just see me talking. I know I don't want to just watch one person talk. So audio for me is how I learn, but I've also learned that because that's my learning differently, right? But when I have guests on, we will start doing some live audios. This will turn into a video, but for now, I need to show up this way. And the right people are still finding me. Not because I became more visible in the traditional sense, but because I continue to show up authentically myself. I'm not trying to be anybody else. I can only share with you my lived experiences, the struggles that I've had, the rebounds that I've had, and how I built what matters most to me on my definition and my terms. And that's what I always want to teach and mentor. You define success on your terms. You define your life. You build a business to support the life that you want. You have to determine building what matters most. What does most mean to you? It's in this visibility that is worth building toward, becoming real. Not the kind that requires a person you don't recognize. Like, you don't even know who you are sometimes if you do a social media post or you jump on a TikTok and you think, gosh, what was I thinking? Because that kind will cost you nothing to maintain if you show up yourself, knowing who you already are. And if you say to yourself, why did I do that? Why did I record it? You hit erase and go again, and you get in touch with who you are authentically. That visibility, you'll be able to maintain that because you're just being yourself. So let me talk about two kinds of visibility as I see it in the world, because I know they look similar from the outside, but I feel they feel completely different on the inside. The first kind is that performance-based visibility. You show up because you're supposed to. You post because the algorithm rewards consistency. You post because your competition is posting. You're trying to one up. You're trying to keep up with the Joneses, to date myself, right? You share things that are carefully crafted for how they will be received than for whether they're speaking from your heart and how you feel. I believe we're in an era where influencers are still going to be there, but I think the influencers are not seen as what we used to call influencers. I think people are craving that one-on-one attention. Show me who you are. Show me the vulnerability. Show me the trends. Show me the laugh. Show me the scrolling just because I can scroll and you're doing something funny. But I also want to learn from you. But I want to learn from you, not what the same message everybody else is sharing. So I think we're seeing the shift in the influencers, and we're connecting more. And it could be part of AI. I'll let that decipher. You can decipher that for yourself. I'm not here to argue that point, but I just feel and see that we're getting back to building relationships and we're getting back to connecting. And that's something that I am excited for in the world of business and how we show up, right? Because when you share things that are so crafted and so perfect, is that really you and what's going on? And if it is, I applaud you. Keep doing it. That kind of visibility will work for a while. It will build your audience and it can create momentum, but I feel in a very short term. And then it starts to cost you more to show up and perform than it will ever give you back. Because you're spending enormous energy maintaining a version of yourself that is probably not quite like who you are right now. Maybe you're burning energy and putting everything out there for something that you were in the past. Maybe your brand has changed. You have new brand colors, new fonts, changed your name, changed your hair. Everything is different. You've grown into this version, but you keep showing up to what others say, hey, if I see a new version of you, I don't know who it is. We're too afraid to be who we are, where we are right now. And somewhere underneath that consistency and the strategy and the showing up, I know that you know the difference between content that is so polished versus content that is true. I know you see it, listeners. Then the second kind of visibility is present-based visibility. You show up as the specific person that you are, honest and raw. You say the direct thing. You share the real story. You let the opinion be an actual opinion rather than something that you tweaked, made softer because it felt safer. Now, that kind of visibility costs you almost nothing to maintain because it requires no management. You're simply being yourself consistently. And the people it attracts connect with who you are. The right people will connect with who you are because you're not performing. And that's a lot easier to sustain because you don't have to remember who you were pretending to be yesterday or last week. Be proud of your journey. Be proud of your growth. Be proud and grateful for where your feet are planted now and talk from this space. Talk about your future. Talk about your goals. Talk about what you want to do. Talk about how you got here. Talk about what's real. I think most people struggle with visibility. They're not struggling with it because it's a lack of strategy. They're struggling because showing up feels risky. It generally feels risky. There's a real fear underneath this for almost everyone who builds something publicly. If you're any type of business, you are showing up on commercials, you're showing up on radio ads, you're showing up on podcasts, you're showing up in networking events, you're showing up at offices, you're on social media all the time, and certain niches and businesses require you to show up and show a house or show up and show a car, whatever it is. And sometimes when you have to do this publicly over and over and over, you run into the fear of being too much, too opinionated, too direct, too specific. Hey, you take up too much space. I'm sure many of you heard it, hands in the air. People say you're too much. Is it real? And then the opposite of that is you don't believe in yourself enough. You have that fear of not being enough. You're not polished enough. You're not credentialed enough. You're not established enough to show up as who you are, talking about what you're talking about, because you have something that is worth saying that will bring value to those that are looking for you and those that are listening. But you're not trying to appease and attract everybody. You want to attract those that will honestly grow and learn and benefit from your struggle, from where you are now and what you're doing. Both of these spheres do exactly the same thing. They put a managed version of you between who you are and the audience. I'll say that again. Both of these spheres do exactly the same thing. They put that managed version of you between who you really are and the audience that you're trying to connect with. And the protection that feels so necessary in the moment is really the thing that keeps the right people from finding you. If you're going to show up and perform all the time and perform with a big pillar around you so you don't fall down and make a mistake or goof, what kind of clients are going to find you? Real ones that want to connect with who you are will pick up the phone, will send an email, or come into your DMs. Because the right people are not looking for that polished performance. If that's who you are, then those are your right people. But I believe in my heart that most people aren't looking for that polished person selling something hard to believe, over the top. They're going to love you and think you're funny, but will they invest in you? I think people are looking for someone that is real to attach their income to, their trust to, and their genuine connection with. Visibility does not have a standard shape or a standard frequency. And that might be one of the most important things I said here today. That visibility does not have a standard shape or frequency. Some people build through daily content, others weekly. Some do long form writing or audio like I do, or write over on Substack and have the essays. And some do simple conversations by going on somebody else's podcast, or simple conversations into, I said, a networking meeting or a luncheon where you introduce yourself and you make others feel welcome. And then you might be a guest on a podcast, or you're tuning into a podcast, or you might be on a TV show, local TV news station, talking about what you do and who you serve. There is no correct way to be visible, and there's no mandatory pace on how often you have to do something. What matters is that the visibility that you choose is sustainable for your real life, for your real business, not the one that you're pretending to have. Not behind the curtains of my business doing 9 figures and everything is great, but yet you're one rent payment away from closing the doors, right? You want to build that business that supports the life that you want and deserve so that you can make the impact that you make. You don't just want to show up and look like you're all that in a bag of chips. Who does that serve? Who does that serve? Because the most strategic content calendar in the world will not help you if you cannot sustain it past that first, oh my gosh, I got 55 likes. I went viral. That first month, that first like. Imagine what it would be like if every single piece of content, social media, podcast, everything you did was viral. Could you keep up so that the next day or the next week? Trust me, I love when I put out these podcasts and I get a DM saying, oh my gosh, Bobbi, thank you for that. It moved me. Thank you for sharing. I also welcome and appreciate, Bobbi, I don't think that point of view was correct. Somebody may do that with this content today, this conversation. But that's the conversation we can have because I'm showing up who I am with what I believe. I'm not here to change you or move you to do something different. I'm here to remind you to build what matters most on your terms, right? But imagine if you're a solopreneur and everything went viral. You cannot keep up if you're trying to do all the social media, do all the graphics, do all the texting, everything yourself. And if you're somebody who has a team and you're scaling, how many more people do you want to add? How big do you want to get? Can you keep up with that pace? So I want you to choose the version of visibility that generally fits who you are and how you work and meets you where you are. Show up at the pace consistently and be honest every time you show up. And remember, consistency isn't every Tuesday at 10 a.m., every other Wednesday. It is sometimes I showed up on a Wednesday And the following Wednesday, I didn't show up, but the following Wednesday, I did. I'm not able to make that networking meeting on Friday this week, but next week you showed up. It's how you come back. Consistency is also how you keep showing up when you can show up. And that, my friends, is real strategy. Everything else is just the details. So this week, I want to ask you, find one place where you've been holding back. Find that one post that you've been sitting on. The opinion that you keep softening, that you keep changing before you share it. The story that you have not told yet because it felt too exposed or too specifically you, or showed that you were not all that in a bag of chips, that you weren't perfect. And my friends, no one is. I want you to find that post. I want you to find that content that you wrote and you wrote and you wrote and you got nowhere because you didn't just talk and share. And just this week, I want you to leave that story in. I want you to hit publish on that one post. I want you to send that email that might be a little stronger, opinionated, might be a gentle nudge to some tough love, or also might be a huge thank you that you've been putting off because you were afraid to let somebody know how much you appreciated what they did for you or that you appreciate their business. Or you might not have sent a thank you because you just thought they would think it's just you sending a thank you for marketing. Say the real thing. Share the honest take. If you send thank yous and gift bags or whatever, make them real. Make them not look like you did it for content posting. Don't send a gift bag so that somebody will go, oh my gosh, I'm going to go Instagram and share this. Share it because you truly appreciate that somebody invested in you. Or send something to somebody who's in need or a pickup or even a confidence boost because that person needed to be reminded that they are exactly who they are, exactly where they're meant to be right now, and that they are listened to, that they are seen, and they are heard. See what happens. You might be surprised by who finds you when you stop editing yourself out of your own work. So that's what we're talking about. That's the conversation this week is visibility. In this episode, it closes our conversation. So if you want to go a little bit deeper, the full post is waiting for you over on Substack. It'll be there. It comes out every Wednesday. You can find it through the notes. And then on Friday over in Substack, I also have a free guided audio reflection that expands on this episode's topic. All right? So go visit me on Substack. Go get some free audio reflection. And until then, keep showing up for yourself because, my friends, you're Fabbo just the way that you are. Where you are, how you show up. Be that person. That's what makes you so unique. That's what sets you apart from all your competition. And that's the story and that's the person. That the people that are waiting for you, the right people are looking for you, and let them find you. Continue to build what matters most, my friends, by your definition. Meet you here next week.